today?
Great. Having a good day.
Good. It's good to see you.
To you.
You
Thank
know, I was talking to some friends and clients recently, and the environment in the community arena is very stressful right now. And one of the things with this stress that's just on everybody that we've all noticed is our cravings are through the roof. And so I've noticed my own cravings, things that I haven't craved for a long time. I've worked with you quite a lot, and I've done my own work on myself to help out with some of those cravings, and I haven't noticed them much. But no, recently, yeah, I felt it. I felt the ice cream calling, and I was
you.
wondering why. And and that was a comfort food as a child, and so I was accustomed to that growing up. I was talking to a friend, and she made me laugh. She was like, I might need a candy bar, or someone is gonna die." So they just went through the roof, and I thought, it's interesting, this unique stress that we're all experiencing a little, and it was multiple. That was a couple stories, but there was multiple people. They're like, "Oh yeah, my eating a whole bunch of foods and things that I normally don't eat." And I just thought it'd be interesting to talk about that mind-body connection. People have been able to maintain, and they're working through this all the time. And these same folks, this community stress is put it so that it's a little bit more intense, a little more difficult to handle those internal challenges that we thought we'd made more progress on. And I just wondered what your thoughts were.
Oh, that's great. Actually, you answered part of it. Is stress is the answer on a lot of those. I just want to know, what does this sound? What's that like when the ice cream calls you? Is it or is it that ice cream truck? Whatever it is they say. And is it different than the call from a potato chip or a hot dog or popcorn, right? I'm
Definitely.
sure there must be some uniqueness to it.
Definitely. I'm sure we could come up with some sounds for that.
And, and I experienced it at first when there was this community stress about the virus and different things. At first, I noticed actually my body actually went into less hunger. It was wanting to preserve. It was
Wow.
wanting to conserve energy and not use up anything in the house. Then it converted, and then it flipped into wanting the food all the time, and just wanting to consume.
Yeah.
Both of those are survival based, and anytime we have survival uh, based emotions and thoughts, is going to affect us, right? And of
Absolutely.
course affect us in our cravings, right?
Hmm.
So our frontal lobe is supposed to has a requirement that it needs to calm down and regulate and modulate all of those signals that are coming from our brainstem. And the brainstem, of course, is sending up, a need for food, seeking. It's not seeking, but afraid or angry or frustrated, whatever. It's going to modulate that, as well as the vagus nerve. Of course, a lot of people know about that. Goes down, and if we're in sympathetic stress, it's going to cause the adrenals to work too hard. You're not going to digest your food as well. Um, and so that's going to cause problems, because if you're not getting the nutrients you need, then the body's automatically going to have cravings because you don't have enough of the nutrients. And at the same time, it's going to cause a situation that, if I'm scared of the bear and what the bear's going to do to me, then I it's like the sensory part of my digestive system, because there is a sensory aspect. When you eat too much, you feel full. You have
Yeah.
the sensation of full. There's a sensory part that is there, that is part of the experience of eating. And if it's not being activated properly because I'm scared of the bear, then it won't trigger that part of the brain very well, that, oh, I had a meal.
Mm.
Because it's going in and I'm doing stuff, right? And I'm sure you've done that, right, Denise? Have you done that when you're eating on the run and all that
Oh
kind of
yeah.
stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I've done it on the, and then I had a similar experience for the the virus stuff too, with the wanting to eat. But other times when I'm on the run, I'll usually, when I'm on the run, my appetite will actually go down. usually, you
Mhm.
know, but yeah, no, I've definitely noticed the appetite changes based on what I'm doing, what's going on.
Mhm. And and thus the appetite in that situation is not based upon nutritional needs, it's based upon emotional needs
Hmm.
and upon neurological impulses. And you have a brain in your stomach called the enteric nervous system, and it communicates to the brain, and there's more messages coming from the enteric nervous system up to your brain than the messages from your brain and from the sympathetic nervous system and autonomic nervous system coming down from the brain. And so if you're always on the run and you're not eating, maybe that's good for your digestion, but then it also tells you that, who's running the show, the survival part of this, or the real person there. And so cravings definitely have a connection to emotional states and the mental state of our mind, huh?
Absolutely. So what would you recommend if someone's in that state of craving, for something that they don't want to, recondition themselves to have to deal with, or that kind of thing, but to cope with some of that, and especially as things get tense, and there's some of this stuff is in short supply. I did go to the grocery store once, and I didn't personally buy ice cream, but the cart in front of me had a lot of ice cream in it, and there was no toilet paper on the rows, and there was none of this kind of stuff going. And I just thought it was funny of all the options that they had just filled their cart with ice cream. And I was like, well, I know how you feel for sure. But to avoid collapsing into our pain.
I wonder if there's something you can say to them. Are you okay? Or are you having a party tonight? Are you afraid that if everything shuts down, you won't have your
Won't have your
treat?
ice cream. Yeah, exactly. I thought that was my thought. Well, the toilet paper's gone. What's next? I better grab my. I better grab my. What do they call it? My precious.
My wife mentioned, she says when she went shopping, she noticed how everything was gone except for the vegetables.
Yeah. Yep. That was where we're at too. Yep.
Uh, and so I may have mentioned that on another podcast, but um, and it just is odd because out of all the things, the vegetables would be the vitamins and minerals you need.
Mhm.
The irony, this actually brings up a good part of cravings and vegetables. There are people out there, and including myself at one time, not so much now, but at one time, if I didn't have enough protein, I wouldn't feel satisfied. And if I had a carrot or a celery or zucchini, yeah, that was nice. I knew it was good for me, but I still needed something else. And so if I am accustomed to eating a lot of ice cream or accustomed to drinking a lot of pop or other types of foods like that, it gets the body so that it craves that, and it isn't processing the quality foods because the quality foods is going to make your or have your liver work more efficiently and your small intestine work more efficiently. So if you're eating the other foods, it's not as efficient. And
Mhm.
so if you keep eating the craving type foods, um, it'll keep you in that non-efficient state. You'll have to eat more, obviously. It'll never. And so if you suddenly switch to vegetables, and you haven't gone through a transition of at least 2 week transition, if not 3 months. Normally, it's more like 3 months of shifting the body from having the junk food as your mainstay to junk food like once or twice a week, or even if it's once a day, just a little bit, so that as you shift, and then the vegetables and all of that have those minerals for you. And of
Mhm.
course, we're talking about the body part of the mind body dictionary, which is a very important thing, because if I'm in the mode of needing the junk, it's going to affect my mind. I'm going to be craving. Okay, I've got to have my pop, or I've got to have my ice cream. I've got to have my potato chips. I got to have my fix.
Mhm.
I'm not really all there. I'm a slave to the crave.
Mhm.
And if I'm a slave to the crave, I am not all here. Actually, I'm not in my bliss. I might be in my happy for a moment, but I'm not in my bliss. And so, but once I go through all that transition, and I now have more quality food, then each bite is really empowering. I mean, today my wife had prepared the lunch for me, and it was great. She was thoughtful about the salad and some peppers, and it did have some rice and other things. But I was able to enjoy the salad and be satisfied with that. And yes, I had a little bit of protein, but it wasn't like a lot because I didn't really need it. Um, and I'm not saying all the protein's bad. I'm saying if you have a variety, each food will become good, and so you're not a slave to your crave. So anyway.
You know, that I can relate to that. When my husband and I were first married and making a lot of diet changes and trying to transition into a healthier mode of eating, I remember us trying to cut it out completely at first. We just tried to cut it clean, and that did not go well. We ended up, doing the binge thing, where it was like a fast and binge, and it was so honestly probably traumatic on our bodies because it just wasn't, it felt like a starvation, and then it felt like this crash, and it just wasn't good. And so we finally, decided, we hadn't studied it, we didn't know, but we decided, you know what, we need to transition more slowly. We need to be more careful because this isn't working. We definitely didn't want to do it that way. And so we did. We had foods, that we were used to and foods that we were accustomed and comfortable with. And then we had food, the stuff we were transitioning to. And it did take over time. I don't think we managed to do it quite in 3 months. I think it was a while longer than that. But once we did it, it was much more like our routines, everything were very in place, and we were very, comfortable and confident with what we were eating, and it wasn't like a traumatic experience on our body. It was much more sustainable, which was partly why, we didn't have, by the time this ice cream craving, we'd have ice cream on a birthday, but not very much, it wasn't a big deal for me personally. And then this, with the recent stress, that was not the case. And so I just found it kind of bizarre, but that does make sense. And of course, if there's going to be, stress in the community, stress that you're not accustomed to, then any cravings that you have, then that would make sense that they would go, to some of those things rather than really nourishing themselves. And if they did try to nourish themselves, that would be a really hard time to do it, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, because the body in that state, when they're full of fear, it's not about nourishment. It's about survival. And so
Yeah.
survival processing of anything, whether it's a thought, emotion, your nutrition, or whatever, it's going to be more coarse. It's not going to be more refined and use the food. One thing I've done, and my wife and I experiment, is when you eat, is you calm, you notice, you reflect, you and just take the time, and then all of a sudden, food actually is a part of the enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
And is part of the life experience. And then I don't have to eat as much actually.
Yeah.
And in fact, I've noticed that when I do that more and more, I don't really have to have all those snacks at night anymore. I mean, I can, and I've done it, so but I don't feel restricted to do or not to do.
Yeah.
It's amazing, that survival mindset. It just, people that do diets out of survival mindset, they set themselves up for failure later on. There are companies out there, popular companies, and they claim they're using all these good nutritional parts to it, but you read the ingredients, it's full of junk. And most people can't even read the ingredients as it is, so they're just trusting that company. It's full of junk and sugar, other forms of sugar they don't recognize. So they're fooling the brain is basically what they're doing, but it backfires on them later with the liver problems and with cravings. After they get off the program, a lot of them gain weight, actually. So I'd like a program that helps us so that we actually empower ourselves. So when we're off the program, that we don't revert back, because it just becomes a habit, becomes a part of our lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so that helps you with the cravings. And what I'd like to do with this is actually get into the mind body dictionary. Okay, let's do addictions. Oh, because if I'm a slave to my crave, that is an addiction. Huh?
Yeah, by definition.
So we pull that up. Well, I think I need to finish up the cravings affirmation now. So I
Absolutely.
just pulled up on the Mind Body Dictionary. Um, you are masking feelings of emotional pain that you do not want to feel. Well, currently when there's so much societal fear, of course,
Of
and
course.
that happens to everyone. A lot of people say I'm above all this. Well, just watch your thinking patterns, your behaviors with other people, your behaviors with watching, TV, YouTube videos, or whatever you're doing. It's not just eating. It has a lot to do with many things.
Everything.
What strikes you there on this one? Anything that you see?
Well, it's an escape, that masking feelings of emotional pain that you do not want to feel. It's finding any way, whether it's the YouTube videos or the food or whatever, to find an escape from reality, to pretend like what's happening is not happening.
Yeah, it's really funny. You're masking the because currently a lot of people are wearing masks, and so you're masking it. Um, by the way, all of us mask something. All of us have it. A lot of us think, oh, we're really upfront, or other people think they're not, I guess. But a lot of people that are upfront, no, they have stuff they're hiding too. But it may not be mental, or it may not be person A, but it might be person B. Everybody's got to deal with mental and emotional stuff. And no one's immune to that unless they're not breathing. And so it just so happens that addictions is a habit formed when it got out of hand, when it got too much, when
Mm-hmm.
I really haven't dealt with the emotional issue or the mental issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so then as as I don't want to deal with it, the frontal lobe, that's what happens with addictions. It comes up, goes from your ventral tegmental area in your brain up to the nucleus accumbens, so that dopamine, and it needs to be regulated by the amygdala, of course, but by the frontal lobe. And if it's not getting the information and it's not coming up enough, and there's a whole bunch of technical stuff with the gene up here that works with the dopamine, but it's not getting all the way up here. I'm not dealing with it. So that's what addiction is. It just mirrors, our body's just mirroring our emotional mental state, you know? So which came first, the addiction or the avoidance? Personally, I think the avoidance comes first. So,
Yeah. So from the classes I've taken from you, Ron, and things that I've heard around and dealt with clients and things,
huh?
dopamine, it feels like love in some ways. It's a happiness hormone, right? Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's excitement. It is adventure. It's reward of curiosity. Love, the more tender love, that's oxytocin. And
Oxytocin.
yeah, and that's fine. But some people feel love when they have a reward. Because when they're little, the kid is fussy and then the mommy will feed the baby here. Or when the kid is a problem, here, take some candy. So
Mm-hmm.
candy and food become a reward. So rewards become love. In that regard, yes. But
Gotcha.
more of the warm love, that's a different neurotransmitter. But yeah, that's great. What you just
Well,
said.
and that's what it says here is you're seeking love everywhere else, but you're nourishing the insecurity instead of healing it. You're
Well,
compensating, trying to fill the void of love, but it's not working. So you do it again and again, hoping that the short relief will last, but it doesn't. And rational thought takes a back seat. So what you're saying from those childhood things, is where the reward or perhaps the dopamine from that reward turns into the thing that they seek, but it doesn't work because it's actually not oxytocin. It's not. So biochemically, it's doing it, but in addition to that emotional connection, is that what you're saying?
yeah, that's exact. This is written perfectly because we're trying to fill the void with something that isn't love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Having a reward of food is what the child thinks is love. Of course, I feel nourished, I feel love, and so some psychologists say that equals love to a child. I disagree. If the child experiences the warm tenderness of a mother, and they may not know English or German or Spanish yet, but they know the vibration of a warm love.
Mm-hmm.
And they also know the reward of food. They have both. They know what's going on. They did that study where that pediatrician found that if a child has enough iron in their brain, they can discern the sound of the voice of their mother as opposed to a stranger. But if they are low iron in a child, they have a difficult time discerning the difference. So if someone's in addiction, you're actually missing a lot of nutrition. You'll miss a lot of discernment, awareness of so many things. So the addiction, the food, if it's a food, it could be a behavior, could feel like love. It could, oh, that stranger, oh, okay, that must be love. Okay, that ice cream must be love. It's an illusionary love, though. It's not a true love. It's not the fullness of love. And so that could appear like that. But when someone has the proper nourishment and living their life without addiction, that you could tell when food is real love or not real love. But when you're in addiction, it's actually difficult to discern. It's actually difficult. Oh, it's like I remember when I was addicted to ice cream, and it was. I had lots of shakes. I had to have my shake almost every day and all that kind of stuff. And then later it was apple fritters or something. I think it was for a while. It became what I looked for, and a lot. It became something I needed. People that are addicted to video games, that becomes their life. They don't need people. They need the game. They have to live for the game. And it becomes a false love. It's illusionary.
Yeah,
And
sad.
yeah, it is actually. It is.
Yeah.
And let me just log back in here. And this isn't to say when you have that, that struggle or that challenge that you're wrong. No, I have been through it. I know what that feels like. I know what the struggle is to get over it. And I'm grateful for the struggle because it developed my character. I'm just saying, giving suggestions if people want to, get through that, right?
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the getting through it. So there's on the Mind Body Dictionary there's the one where the suggestions are. Let's go ahead and read some of that and chat about getting through it. It is, I obviously, I mentioned at the beginning, I've been through it too. And I know the difficulty is, and the character development that comes along with challenging that kind of pain.
Yeah, so it's on that same page, right? And you
Yep,
just go
absolutely.
to the bottom paragraph, right?
Bottom paragraph, yep.
The power to find relief is found within you through honestly caring for every part of yourself. Yep, that's true. But part of the problem is people say to me, well, how do I care for myself?
Yeah.
Which is always an interesting question, actually. I mean, they breathe. They get up and they put the clothing on. They may cook a meal or they may not cook a meal. But what's behind the care? So if I asked you, what does that really mean to honestly care for Denise, for yourself? What would that mean to you?
I've had that same question. People have asked me before. They're like, well, is that doing my nails and, like getting their nails done or doing things like that? But I really think that it's not so much the action that you're taking, but more the internal response or the internal nourishment that you're offering yourself through whatever you're going through whatever you're doing. So for me, when I make a mistake or something like that, really caring for myself is being very gentle to myself for that mistake. Being very gentle, be very understanding and compassionate. And for some things that's easy. It's not a problem. Oh yeah, and shrug, laugh it off. Other things, it can be a little more difficult. In fact, to the point where I have to say the words, whether in my head or out loud, and this might sound silly, but I have to actually say the words, I am still a valuable and lovable person, even though that just happened, right? Whether it was something I did or something someone did to me or whatever it is, I'm still a lovable person. And I sometimes I'll repeat it 2 or 3 times. And to me, that's nourishing myself through whatever struggle I'm going through, and breathing through it until I can relax and return to, thinking clearly, because obviously I'm going to a survival state when I'm doing that.
Yeah. And that's a really good definition. A lot of times I go to the Spanish word when for care, they use cuidar. And cuidar they use to say oftentimes on two fronts, either cuídate, like be careful, but watch out. And the other is to cuidar los niños, the kids. So you take care of the children. So I've thought about that care, and in English, true care is consciously paying attention.
Mm.
So you consciously pay attention is not addictive behavior. Addictive behavior, I'm not thinking about. I get that bag of potatoes. That's not care when I unconsciously eat a bag of potatoes or unconsciously eat a carton of ice cream. That's not conscious.
Hmm.
That's unconscious. That's not caring.
Yeah.
That's conscious awareness, conscious attentiveness to self. So when a child feels love from a parent, their parent is consciously being attentive to that child, and then they can have that warmth going in and out. Because otherwise, yeah, I paid for the, for your schooling, for your you just don't bug me. Well, that's not caring. That's just get out of my way.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, that would
So
be the same as the candy. Here, take this candy. Just be happy over there. Yeah,
right,
that's true. Yeah.
that's not caring. So if I am caught in the state of how do I consciously take care of it, it means that if it's the nails, that's fine. If a lady says, I want to do my nails, great. Be there while the nails are being done, right?
Hmm.
Be there. Um, if it's eating ice cream, be there with the ice cream. Be
Yeah.
one consciously aware. You won't eat as much ice cream that way. Save
Yeah.
a lot of money, and you'll
Yeah.
gain less weight if weight is an issue. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That was
care
going to be my
is.
next question. I was going to say, does that mean when you eat ice cream consciously? but it's true
That's
that
true.
as I kind of was thinking about it while you were saying, consciously be there with it and joking in my head about eating ice cream consciously. The truth is, you might eat ice cream, but if you're eating it consciously and really embracing, each bite and just,
Uh,
gratitude and all that stuff, you're not going to eat as much. I just can't see it. For me personally, maybe not everyone, maybe so, there's some work to do, but for me personally, I would be like, I'd be very satisfied very quickly. And I'd be grateful, and then I'd be done. I wouldn't want to do harm, in other ways if it filled me mentally, emotionally. Does that make sense?
yeah, and it really works. For years, my family had an allergy to chocolate. Not all of us, but a few of us. And as I've worked through it with energy work, emotional work, and all this through, and the work on myself and with others helping me, I don't have those headaches. I don't react to chocolate anymore. It's so amazingly nice. But but I really love chocolate, and I could just I just could go eat it, but I don't. I cherish the moment with that chocolate, and it's fine. I
Mhm.
mean, it is amazing the taste. Certain chocolate, of course, and macadamia nuts and etc. Or if I'm having a cookie, it's the moment,
Mm.
and it just is just a wonderful experience. And sometimes my wife says, you're a little embarrassing if I'm in public when I do that. Oh, this is so good. but but yeah, if you that's caring and that's sharing with yourself. You
You know,
share there.
some cultures that's natural. Culturally they do that. So my husband lived in Italy for a couple years, and one thing that they said all the time was, "You Americans, you eat to live, but us Italians, we live to eat." And Italians, they walk a lot, they move a lot, they do a lot, they have a lot of stairs everywhere they live, and those kind of things. But that one thing about them is that when they ate, or when they cooked a meal, they were very, very thoughtful about the entire process from beginning to end. And my husband brought that home with him, which is really wonderful, actually. And he's always, doing the same thing. It sounds like you're doing with your wife, but just saying, oh, just embrace this bite. Okay, now embrace this one. Isn't it great? And that's really helped him out a lot with food over the years, is that cultural understanding he developed with just really embracing the moment of each bite. And culturally, that's how they do it. And they get really deep into their sauces and their lasagnas and so when he first got there was a real problem, because they have a lot of food, and they have a lot of different styles, and they have a lot of things, and so he found ways to restrict and whatnot, and then he caught on to that little bit, and
And then it
kept
was fine.
it,
Then it
and
was
then it
okay.
was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. He adjusted his mind.
He adjusted his mind. Exactly. It worked out well for that. Otherwise, it would have cost him a lot of trouble. So for sure. For sure.
This comment on the suggestion here, beating yourself up in your low moments isn't helping.
Hmm.
So, a lot of people say, "Oh, why did I do that?" And I've done that on other things, but it actually is counterproductive. It makes us actually crave more,
Yeah.
be addictive. I think the negative has a lot of power. It's like a stop sign. Stop signs are not bad. I think they've helped me survive and help others. And countries that don't obey the stop signs very much is actually really dangerous. So negative thought is a stop sign. But if you keep that negative thought going, obviously it's not going to be helpful at
Yeah.
all. Love yourself for your mistakes, to nourish yourself back to strength, hope, and health. Um, it's really difficult to love yourself for your strengths if we're in a negative mindset or we're in survival. When we're running from a bear, it's really difficult to go, "Hey, I'm doing pretty good here. The bear's there. I'm here, and he hasn't eaten me yet, so I'm doing okay." Because I'm in survival. I'm
Yeah.
not. My mindset isn't there. So to be able to show respect to myself, I actually have to be a little bit more aware. I need to be conscious. I need to be aware
Hmm.
instead of the bear, right? And that's just a thought.
You mean be aware of the bear? Is that what I understood?
No, be aware rather than focus on the bear.
Ah, be aware rather than focus on the bear. Good. I'm glad I clarified.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah.
Most people, yeah.
Well, a lot of times the
Hey,
bear, when you're, focused on it from a survival space, it's not clear anyway. It's you're not aware at all, let alone aware of the bear. You just and you actually have to find awareness, and then the bear turns into a little chickmunk or something.
yeah, yeah. And so in trainees work with people, it is to get them to be you consciously aware. Now, you can do that with breath work, writing, energy work, coaching, but that's a goal, and then you won't be so much. Now, when people have addiction, you need to face the wall eventually. You got to face the wall that what's more important,
Mm.
focusing on the bear or focusing on being aware and enjoy life. I know of people that they go so much in fear of letting go of their fears that they will maintain their problems.
Mm.
So that's just something to consider. It's just a chance they have to take, right?
Yeah, well, it does say right here on the bottom, it says, as you face yourself and honor to the divine part of within you, you can grow into what is truly you. Reach out for
Mhm.
help and honor the need for true self-responsibility. And I mean, that's essentially what you were just saying. And it's that self-responsibility piece. That might feel heavy, I suppose. It's easier perhaps when you're in the addiction mindset
Mhm.
to ignore that, but it's so costly, and so painful, and it's way more um pleasant to live in a place where you're self-responsible. You don't go through all the terror of a bear.
Yeah, Tara the Bear. We could have a lot of fun, huh?
You're having a lot of fun now. That's right. Should we read a couple of the affirmations?
Yep. Yeah, I moved over to the light bulb here.
All right.
Yeah, and
Oh, there you go.
uh,
See, I can see clearly the precious emotions and habits that actually hurt me.
mm, mm-hmm, mm. I can see clearly now. Um, You know, why would I say precious emotions? Everybody thinks, I'm sure, that precious must be, something wonderful. But if I'm holding something precious, like I've got to have that cookie, and that
Mhm.
cookie's more precious than my body, and that precious probably is not a positive, huh?
No.
But
Well,
here it says precious emotions. What were you going to say, Denise?
oh yeah, sorry. I was just gonna refer to the Ring, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. A lot of people have seen that movie and just
Coach
that part
Tolkien.
precious and how that plays very and appropriately distinguishes the things that are actually hurting.
Hmm.
It's this perception that it's so needed, but it's only perception. It's actually only hurting.
Yeah. Completely. People don't realize they're addicted to you. I know when someone's really addicted is because they get more excited in the ritual to get to the ice cream or cookie or whatever it is they have than the
Wow.
actual substance itself.
Hmm.
And in the coaching arena, I've supported other groups with heroin and cocaine, some hard stuff. I don't
Hmm.
attract that often because they need definitely professional support.
Hmm.
But I remember very distinctly that many of them actually had a high on the way to it, like the needle going in, things like that. And
Wow.
so the precious is not real when
No.
you're in it. That's false. It's a lie. It's not valid. It's an illusion, and it can't last. You can't hold it up.
Yeah.
I am ready to uncover what I am hiding. A lot of people think, oh, I'm hiding my addiction. Actually, yeah, you may be. I mean, one lady said to me, um, she came, she had cancer, and I said, well, you smoke. She says, well, yeah. I says, but doesn't smoking lead to lung cancer and things like that? She says, well, yeah, but I smoke outside, and 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 no one sees me when I'm smoking, and so it shouldn't hurt at all because no one knows. And
Oh,
she actually believed that, and I went, okay, that's kind of strange.
yeah.
Because now, so some people are hiding the addiction, but what she was really hiding had to do with she was escaping what people really saw and thought of her. She
Yeah.
was what people thought.
Yeah.
And so that revealed it right there. And what we're hiding, if you can go there and face it, go see a therapist, do some energy work, do emotional work with, etc. Get it taken care of and
Yeah.
find out what's hiding. And you'll be surprised how easy it is to start moving and getting above this, you know?
So
Um,
hiding in this case, the case of ice cream or candy bars or popcorn or those kind of things, would be. I mean, I guess it would be different for everybody. It would be different for
yeah,
everybody.
most
Absolutely. Yeah.
likely. Most
It'd
likely.
be a
I mean,
matter of. It would be a matter of connecting with this affirmation and breathing into it and allowing yourself to wake up to your own real reality.
and it is good to reflect off of other people to say, hey, this is what I see it as. And I still do it. I'm really grateful that other people say, well, that's your reality, but that's not mine. Right.
Okay.
And yeah, that's exactly correct.
Let me
Um,
clarify that. So when you say reflect off of other people, so if I said, okay, I think this is what it is, then someone else saying, well, when I observe you, it looks like this. Is that what you're saying? Or,
yes, mostly.
okay. Okay. Otherwise, it could be reflecting off of other people, observing the patterns that perhaps might bother me the most about what they're doing.
Well, when we're reflecting, we're asking other people about the reflection. If we ask them, if we're asking someone who will belittle us and disrespect us, that's not going to count
Yeah.
because then they have an agenda. It'd have to be off a trusted friend or coach or therapist,
Gotcha.
obviously.
Yeah.
And really on addictions, really having a therapist is wise if it is severe addictions. Now, if it's just the cookies, I'm sure you can get by. But but anyway, yeah, it has to be a trusted reflection. Otherwise, it's their agenda. And then if you feel belittled, then it makes the situation a lot worse.
For sure. That makes sense. Yeah.
The other thing to do on reflection is a really cool thing that sometimes I do. And that is I watch the responses of others to how what I say and what I do, and that sometimes will reveal what they hear. For example, when I was a child, I had a difficult time speaking certain consonants, and so I had a strong speech impediment. It was, really pronounced, so to speak. And so over the years, I noticed that I listened to their interpretation to what I'm saying, and actually it reveals some of even the letters I'm not even pronouncing correctly. But I wouldn't know because the way I hear it is the way I say it, and that's
Uh-huh.
true in life.
Yeah.
The way you feel it is how you express it,
Yeah.
and so it's a really fun secret to play with. So you don't even have to ask people sometimes. You just express yourself and watch how they reflect back. Now, what they reflect back is a combination of what they filter of what you have, as well as the filter they have already and their past experience. So it's not an absolute correct reflection, it's a partial filter. It's
Yeah.
just, you know, a little technical fun thing to know about.
More information. More
Yeah,
information.
yeah, it's just cool. Um, I am empowered every moment to bring sweetness into my life that no substance can ever can. So, um, you know, into my life that no substance ever can. It's to imagine that. Now, this is substance means that's out of a behavior or something that's this, because to the body, if it's, let's say, addiction to adrenaline, and I've got to go, go, go all the time, and I'm addicted to adrenaline, that substance, of course, would be adrenaline, okay, as opposed to smoking being nicotine. But I'm empowered every moment to bring sweetness into my life without having to have something external.
Yeah.
That's joy.
Internal sweetness, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's great.
That's awesome.
So, and there's other ones. I no longer submit to immature fears and cravings. Well,
Mhm.
we work up to that, don't we? So,
Absolutely.
um, well, this is awesome, awesome
Yeah, so how about
conversation.
Ron, we go ahead and close this section up, and then let's head into doing an energy balance for cravings. So when someone finds themselves in an addiction or in a state of craving for something that they are addicted to, we just do a simple energy calming to help them calm themselves down and deal with
Okay,
it better.
all right, we'll do.